welcome to day 3 of our international webinar series. This is our professional development program, which will be going for 5 days. Today is the third day of it, and we are honored to have Professor Ravinder Rena with us. And for your information, Professor Ravinder Rena, he is a professor of economics and internationalization project in Northwest University Business School in South Africa. And he also is adjunct professor of economics at Monarch Business School. So he is a recipient of the prestigious award of Best Researcher from Namibia University of Science and Technology. And for your information, based on his extraordinary research contribution, American Historical Society, USA, has enlisted his profile in World of Who is Who International. So currently he's serving also as a chairman of panel of judges for economics of business of global undergraduate award in Dublin. He has written 10 books. He has published more than 120 papers in national international journals. I'll be taking some of the names also. His journals include the Scopus Index journal like Inter Science, Taylor and Francis. He is also the founding editor-in-chief of one of the Scopus journal. Many of you must be knowing of the name of it. It's International Journal of Education, Economics and Development. And he's associate editor of African Journal of Science, Technology, Innovation and Development. So for your information, his author rank is 5,399 out of 4,38,702 of Social Science Research Network, USA. So he is among the top 1.3% researchers in the world right now. And he has written in the areas of economics, education, rural development, inclusive growth, globalization, and of course, the core economics happens to be his primary area. And a person who is a travel enthusiast like me, he has been to more than 40 countries now. So that is the profile of Professor Ravinder Rena, and we are really honored to have you here with us today, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation. And Professor Ravinder Rena has a very interesting style of presentation. He doesn't use his PPTs. He tries to articulate everything in his words and try to go directly. Means I have attended one of his sessions physically, and he goes into the eyes of every individual who is available in the room. So that's the quality of Professor Ravinder Rena. So without any further ado, all yours, Professor. Wish you all the best, and all the members, happy listening. Please don't forget to mark your attendance. I'll be putting the attendance in the chat. Thank you so much. All yours, Professor Ravinder.
Good afternoon, colleagues and friends, research scholars, professors, directors, deans, pro-vice chancellors, vice chancellors across the globe. Let me take the opportunity to thank the Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Buraimi University, Oman, Dr. Aboob Al-Sawafi, and the Dean of the faculty, Dr. Ibrahim Rashid, and the coordinator of this conference, Dr. Shad Khan, for introducing me with that kind words. Thank you, Dr. Shad. And also, I would like to thank all the participants across the globe. Probably I heard more than 27 countries people are taking part in this international webinar series. I must also congratulate and applaud the committee members of Buraimi University to choose this particular starting date of June 21st. June 21st marked as one of the important days in the world. So, for example, we celebrate Father's Day on 25th of June, and we also got there was a solar eclipse that taken place. Some part of West Africa, some part of Asia, they experienced that solar eclipse on that particular day. And we also celebrate the International Yoga Day. That is also another important day that fall into that particular date. And most importantly, it is the longest day in the world, as 21st of June is considered to be the longest day out of 365 days. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is one of the important landmark dates that are being chosen by the conference or webinar organizers, 21st June. And today is 23rd of June 2020. And so I would like to talk on few things before I go to my presentation that I would like to mention a couple of points here. And Dr. Shad asked me that whether I could able to present with the PowerPoints. Then I told him that no, I'll be more comfortable to speak to our fellow colleagues and researchers rather without using PowerPoint, because I always believe that I got a brain which has got some power and it can offer some points. So therefore, I don't need PowerPoints. And I think I always believe that the person who doesn't have a point will use the PowerPoint. And even we have so many technical problems, like when Dr. Anna was presenting yesterday, we do have some problems with regard to the technology. So that is why I believe in my brain, I believe in myself than any other technological devices. So that is one of the points I would like to mention. And I also would like to state here that my presentation would be consisting of three parts. The point one is about the COVID-19. We all know that the COVID-19 has started at one province of China, and it spread all over the world. Almost more than 200 countries in the world they've been affected or impacted by this pandemic, and it has been creating a havoc. It is terrifying the human beings and probably all the creatures in this globe on the business and the economy and the culture, the sports and the societies are being literally suffering with this disease. So probably more than 200 countries in the world, they got infected by this virus. And according to today's statistic, for example, we got about 9.2 million people got infected by this virus across the globe. And then we got, although the death rates are close to half a million, probably about 475,000 people died so far, according to the official statistics. Probably there could be more than that. Then, though there are recovery cases, presumably more than 50% of the infected cases that have been recovered as well. And the countries that are worst hit by this pandemic is America, which is having the large number of deaths. Probably more than 122,000 people died, and probably millions of people got infected by that. And the second one is none other than Brazil, which has got more than 1 million people got infected, and probably about more than 50,000 people died with that. So the third country is Russia. Although the death rates in Russia was presumably lower than many other countries, but still Russia stands third in position, and which has got probably more than 600,000 people got infected by the virus, and probably very few hundreds of people died with that. The fourth one, when I was speaking about the pandemic and then its impact on the global economy a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking that time that the India was ranking about eighth position, and now India occupied fourth position. So with probably close to half a million people got infected, and about 2,000 people died, probably more than that. So this is a current situation. In South Africa, for example, we have the largest number of cases, infected cases in African continent. We crossed 102,000 people just yesterday, and probably a few thousand people died with that. So this is just to understand what is happening with this global pandemic and how it is impacting on the people and the global economy, the global business, and so on. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we realistically look at, although the pandemic is dangerous and it is trying to pose a serious threat for human beings and the economy and so on, but if we look at the history, probably about 100 years ago, between 1918 to 1920. That was just after World War One, which was started from 1914 to 1918. Just immediately after World War One, we had this pandemic, which is popularly known as Spanish flu. So if you look at that, the number of cases that are infected with about 2 to 3 years' time was 500 million people across the globe. So meaning that the population of the world at that time was not even 2 billions. Maybe it's about 1.7, 1.8 billions because we had the first 2 billion was in 1927 and the first billion was in probably 1804. So, meaning that if we imagine 1.7, 1.8 billion people in 1918 to 1920, the number of people got infected by that Spanish flu was probably a similar kind of situation. That the that is immense. That is absolutely, it has got a huge impact on the humanity. And so if you look at the death rates, for example, probably about 50 million people died with the Spanish flu in about 2 to 3 years period. So what do we understand by that? Out of 500 million people, 50 million people died. So that tells us about 10% death rate. But if you look at the current pandemic, which is probably much lower than what it is, probably created by the Spanish flu. So the death rate, according to the scientists and the different experts in the medical field, they reveal that it is 0.89% or less than 1%. So although the death rate is much lower than what it is created by Spanish flu, but still it is absolutely creating a fear among everybody in the world, whether it is the government, whether it is people, whether it is policymakers, whoever, private sector, public sector, everybody got impacted by this pandemic. So this is the first part, just to give you an overall picture what is happening. In Oman, for example, we got about 34, 35,000 people got infected and probably 150 people died. So when we look at the death rate in Oman comparatively with the rest of the world, is very, very small, very, very meager. But that doesn't give us a kind of, a better feeling that no, we are better off than other countries. So that is a scenario we have with this pandemic. But now we need to look at the global economy, how this pandemic is trying to create a havoc and try to destabilize the global economy. And the global economy has been suffering immensely for the past few months. Although there are many economies that did not recover from this recession, which was badly hit the global economy in 2007, 2008. And if you look at that, there are even countries like South Africa, for example, who are not recovered yet. Our growth rate was found to be probably less than 1% for the past few years. So that tells us that we are still under the recession period. Now, when we are unable to recover from the recession or the recession badly hit us, then this pandemic came in and it is also creating yet another serious threat for the global economy. Now, how the global economy looks like. We do have about $86.6 trillion economy in the world, which is not a bigger amount. If we look at the numbers of 86 trillions, it's less than 100 trillions. So 100 trillions, look, it is a pretty small amount, but that's what the global income looks like. Now, Professor Imran Salim was talking a couple of days ago about the global debt. And the global debt in 2008, for example, it was reported to be about $84 trillion. So that is almost close to the current global income of the world. 84 trillions and 86.6 trillions, that is very much close to. Now, that global debt was increased from 84 trillions to 253 trillions. I mean, that is absolutely unimaginable figure that the global, output, which is not even probably 30% or 25% of the total debt of the world. So that is a bit of scary issue. And he also mentioned that the per capita debt of the people. For example, we got about 7.8 billion people on this planet today. Now, the 7.8 billion people, they are sitting with a debt of about 32,000 US dollars per person. I mean, we are not getting that much income actually. $32,000 is probably some of the developed countries like South Korea or maybe Switzerland and probably some of those European countries. They are the one getting more than $32,000 as their per capita income. Now, Qatar, for example, on the other side of the coin, which has got the highest per capita income in the world, which is close to 117,000 American dollars per annum per person. So that is the biggest figure. Now, what I'm trying to tell you here is that the per capita debt is absolutely much higher. It is we cannot even carry that much burden. So in terms of, we also calculated in terms of the Indian side of the story, India got about 24 and a half to 25 lakhs of rupees, that is the per capita debt. So these are the scary statistics. These are the scary situations that the global economy is facing. Now, when we are sitting with that much debt, one side, and on the other side, we are sitting with so many other socio-economic challenges. Now, this disease came in between, and it is also becoming a serious threat for the human beings in the world. So let us try to understand how the global economy looks like. Who are the largest players in this world, and who are the smallest players in this world? We got probably about 230 countries in the world. Out of these 230 countries in the world, not even one third of the world is developed countries. And two-thirds of the world is still considered to be low-income countries and probably underdeveloped countries or developing countries per se. So this is what I was a student maybe more than 30 years ago, and what I'm studying today, the same kind of scenario I'm studying. There is no much change that has occurred in the global economy as such, except the amount of income that is generated by the global economy is increased probably few folds, but it didn't make any significant difference in the lives of the people, a common man or a downtrodden. So let me also unpack some of the highlights of the global economy. That America is considered to be the largest economy in the world, meaning that probably about 24-25% of the global income is coming from America alone. So America contributes plus minus about $23.5 trillion to the global economy. Now, meaning that uh, one country could able to contribute, possess the income about 25%, which is absolutely unimaginable. Now, the second largest economy is none other than the China. For example, China got close to $14.5 trillion, and which is the second largest economy. So the difference between China and India is about $10 trillion. Sorry, China and America is about $10 trillion. Now, the third largest economy, for example, is Japan. Japan is considered to be the second largest economy for many years, but the position has been changed, and China has taken over that position. Now, look at the scenario. What Japan is having is only $7 trillion. So between China and Japan is almost off. Now, these three countries in the world is carrying more than 50% of the global income. That is not fair, and it is not sustainable. It is not going to be strong enough for the long run development of the sustainable development of the global economy. Now, when we have, if you take the top 10 countries in the world, they have got probably more than 70% of the income of this world. That's not good. If you compare the rest of the world of the developing countries, particularly from African side, there is a comparable statistics between between India and the African continent. India has got 1.3 billion people, and it earns about $2.7 trillion. Whereas, according to the latest statistics, African continent, which has got about 55 countries in this continent, which also has about 1.3 billion people. Now, this 1.3 billion people, they couldn't able to contribute to $2.5 trillion to the global economy. That is not even 5% of the global income. So we have tremendous probably inequalities, disparities among ourselves as nations. So that is a scary part. And the global leaders and the policy makers, the economists, and the scientists, everybody needs to think about this issue. So too much concentration of economic power is not a good sign. We all know that we try to measure the economic disparities with the Gini coefficient. For example, an Italian economist called Corrado Gini was probably developed that model, Italian statistician and economist in 1912, 1913, more than 100 years ago, how to measure the economic disparities. Now, economic disparities have been widening from country to country. Now, as I mentioned just now, Qatar has got more than 117,000 US dollars, 117,000 US dollars. Whereas countries like Ethiopia, Malawi, Chad, and Niger, these countries, they do not even have 500 US dollars as their per capita income. So there's a huge disparity. That is not a good sign of the economic development of this globe. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I just would like to also state here and emphasize here that these three countries in the world, like America, China, and Japan, which has got more than 50% of the global income. And if you include a country like Germany, it has got more than $4 trillion, and the fifth economy is none other than UK, which has got close to, which is little more than what India has got. For example, India got 2.7 trillions, maybe UK got about 2.8, 2.85 trillions. So these are the 5, 6 major economies in this world. Now let us look at the other side of the coin. When most of the people, we begin to speak about the global economy, about the prosperity of the world, about the corporate sector, about the rich people, and about various other role players who have been contributing one way or the other way to this global economy. But we, at the same time, we ignore, we forget, we don't even talk anything about the poor people in this globe. So the prosperity and the poverty, they are the two sides of the same coin. So prosperity, poverty cannot be delinked, cannot be separated. But the other side, what I would like to mention here, that, ladies and gentlemen, we have got 50% of the global poverty coming from only 5 countries. So what does that mean? Now, who are those 5 countries that are contributing to the global poverty? Out of 7.8 billion people, we got probably more than 3 billion people sitting with below poverty line. That's not a good sign. Now, out of these 5 countries who are contributing 50% of the global poverty, who are they? The first country is India, ladies and gentlemen. I know there are a lot of Indian participants are taking part in this particular webinar, but that is absolutely a scary part. That is absolutely a pathetic situation for India. It doesn't paint any rosy picture about Indian economy or India as a country, which is 6th largest economy in the world, which is one of the probably the largest democratic country in the world. So we contribute about 24% of the global poverty. And the second country is Nigeria. Nigeria has got more than 210 million people, which is the largely populated country in African continent, and it's the 7th largest populated country in the whole world. So what does it say? And it contributes 12% of the total poverty of this world. So 12 plus 24 is 36. Now the third country is DRC Congo. Democratic Republic of Congo contributes 7%. So meaning that 43% of the global poverty is covered by these three countries. Now, and is coming,
Please mute yourself.
Dr. Shah, can you kindly regulate the noise that was coming from Dr. Rajesh Kumar, I think? Can you mute? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I was trying to explain about the global poverty. There are three countries, India, uh, Nigeria, DRC Congo, they contribute about 43%. Now, the other country is Ethiopia, which contribute 4% of the global poverty, and which is almost close to 100 million people that Ethiopia alone has got. Now, the fifth country is none other than Bangladesh. Bangladesh contribute about 3% of the global poverty. So imagine the situation, three countries in the world, or five countries in the world, they contribute 60% of the income of this world.
युवा वैसी पार्टनर बन गया वहाँ पर वो अगर किसी समझौते की तो ये जो पार्टनर है वो 6% इन्फ्लेशन
Dr. Shad, I think somebody is talking.
प्रत्येक साल
Mute them.
समान लाभ हानि में हिस्सा पार्टनर का करें समान
Dr. Shad, can you hear me? Colleagues, can you hear
I
me?
can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is absolutely a paradoxical situation we are facing with. And in the long-term development, overall development, we have got so many economic growth models. We got so many economic strategies. We have got so many economic models that have been developed by so many economists for the past few decades. But now, a poor is becoming a poorer, and rich is becoming a richer at the cost of the poorer. If we need to build this poor people, the downtrodden, the underprivileged societies in this world, we need to uplift them. When we uplift them, whatever the developed countries are producing, then we got more markets, we got more customers to buy those products. So the global output will be expanded drastically.
Professor Ravinder, can you please unmute yourself? I had to mute them all.
Can you hear me, Dr. Shah?
Yes. Sorry, we had to mute all.
Yes, I do understand
Some of
the
them.
situation, but
Yes.
yeah. So that is a bit of probably when we look at the population of the world, about 2020 years back, we didn't even have 250 million people in this world. Now the world we have that it can offer to provide the basic means to all the people living on this planet without having any problems. But unfortunately, there are millions and millions of people on this world. They are living with starvation. They are having probably not even one meal per a day. Whereas the people on the other side of the coin, they don't know how to spend the money. So this is a paradoxical phenomena, and the global economists and global leaders must begin to think about this issue seriously. And we need to change this issue. Now, for example, the business, if you look at the global, for example, we have Steve Jobs, who contributed immensely for the Apple and iPhones. He mentioned that if the the businesses are closing, it's fine, they will be closed, but the existing businesses need not to be worried too much about, but they have to do their best. What they can do, they have to create a product that can be expensive one side, that can be unbeaten, that can be unique. And if we do that, people automatically, whatever savings that they have, they begin to take out their wallets and they try to spend for the unique commodities. So with that kind of idea, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Jobs keep on building the empire, business empire, and now Apple became the second largest techco technical company or mobile company in this world, just after Amazon. Amazon has got about $1.8 trillion, whereas Apple has got $1.4 trillion. And we do have other major giants like Google, which is the third largest company in the world with about close to $1.35 trillion. So imagine the American situation that Amazon, one side, the Facebook on the other side, Google, and Apple on the other side. So these four companies, they are contributing probably 30-40% of the total income of America. So that is a kind of situation that we have. Now, this is what is happening in the global economy. We have tremendous disparities among ourselves. And so the top economies, as I mentioned, that US, China, Japan, and Germany, UK, India, and France, Italy, Canada, and list goes on. Now, there are poorest countries in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Harvard University is considered to be the top university in this world for the past few decades. Look at the Harvard University's budget, annual budget, and the budget of Burundi, for example, a small country in African continent, or Chad, which is in terms of area size, Chad is considered to be one of the biggest countries in Africa. And Niger, these countries, they do not even have probably 10-15% of the total annual budget of what Harvard University is having. So this is a bigger disparity that we have. That is not a good sign, ladies and gentlemen. We need to fight for this. We need to work hard for that. And when somebody doesn't get $1 per day, $1 in terms of Indian rupees, it's about 75 rupees they couldn't able to earn on an average for one single day. Whereas for 1 second, somebody is earning probably about a few $100,000 just for 1 second. Now this is absolutely a scary situation. So just to explain that global economy, we have serious turbulences. African continent considered to be the second biggest continent in the world with about 31 million square kilometers land. For instance, if you take Russia as a country and Canada as a country, together, Russia, Canada together can constitute the African continent as a whole. So ladies and gentlemen, I think Africa having 55 countries in this continent could able to contribute less than 5% of the global income. That's not good. In terms of the natural resource base, Africa is the richest continent. For example, Africa has got more than 54% of the diamonds of this world. And African continent has got more than 55% of the gold of this world. And you keep on talking about the different minerals and different other precious raw materials that Africa has got. But Africans considered to be the poorest people in this world because of mismanagement of the resources. So I'm not going to the details of that particular issue, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to talk, probably, I don't know how many minutes do I still have. I would like to touch upon some of the global businesses, how these global businesses are impacted or affected by this pandemic. Now, every single second, there is a kind of leakage is taking place. We got a ball, we put, within that ball, we put some water, and there are some different probably holes that we are creating. Every single second, the global economy is having some kind of holes. Whatever you put in that holes, it will leak. It will not hold. Now, it is difficult for the economists. It is difficult for the policymakers. It is difficult for the econometricians it is a bit difficult for the statisticians to measure exactly what is happening in this world because of this COVID-19. And even we do have bigger institutions such as IMF, International Monetary Fund, and IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is popularly known as World Bank. They do not have all probably OECD countries, or we have African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, and so on and so forth. They do not able to measure, they do not able to procure the sophisticated statistical base because of the pandemic. So whatever statistics that have been generated for the past few months is not reflecting the reality, because most of the people are working from home. While working from home, they cannot derive the statistics that are required for this global economy. So ladies and gentlemen, we are sitting with a serious problem here. And so we are insisting the people to work. According to the ILO statistics, although there are people that are working from home, but if you realistically look at the labor force, and the labor force, out of 7 people, only 1 person is working from home. The remaining people are not working. So the businesses are tremendously impacted by this pandemic. When you look at the global trade, on the other side of the coin, global trade was slashed down. And the exports and the imports are been declined tremendously. According to WTO statistics, although they say 13% of the global trade for the past few weeks has been affected, it could be more than that. So the global business, global trade, global commerce has been drastically affected by this virus. If you look at the food industry is considered to be one of the prominent, we all need the food. Without food, we cannot survive. We know that. Now, there are so many companies in this world, they used to produce the food and sell the food. Now people are working from home. How do they go out and buy their food? Ladies and gentlemen, we must remember that $3.4 trillion of the food industry is got affected by this virus. That's not an easy job. Now we have Greencore is considered to be UK's largest food manufacturing company. They were producing 700 million sandwiches per 1 year. Now imagine the situation. They cannot able to produce the sandwiches and sell because people are working from home. There's nobody there to buy. If they are working in their offices, they are going to the shops, this and that, they could have done that. But now the food industry is the one which is suffered a lot. And then the other businesses that have been suffered is small businesses, small, medium businesses, or probably informal businesses, they suffered a lot. We got so many million people that got unemployed. For instance, in America alone, more than 42 million people got unemployed for the past few months. In India, countries probably which a major populated, second largely populated country, which has got close to 15 crore people, about 150 million people got unemployed by this virus. We got more than 100 million people who are migrant laborers coming from Bihar, Odisha, and other backward states of India to different other cities like Hyderabad, Delhi, and Calcutta, Chennai, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, and those people, they are forced to leave those cities and go back to their homes because of the fact that they can't afford to pay the rents. They can't afford to leave without having a job. So this is having a tremendous impact. Now, if you look at the global workforce, the workforce has been badly affected. We do have businesses such as airline industry. Airline industry, major airline industries such as Emirates, Etihad Airlines, and we also got Lufthansa, and we have Singapore Airlines, we have Turkish Airlines, we have American Airways, we have Qantas, Australian Airways. So all these airline industries are suffering with the biggest losses. Thousands of people have been removed from their employment. Now, when these people going to come back to the employment, That is a big question. Almost 900 billions to $1 trillion are being suffered by the airline industry alone, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if the list goes on, the tourism industry, country like Spain, which used to get more than 80 million people per annum, now Spain doesn't have tourists. Although probably a few days ago, Spain opened its gates for European countries to visit, but it takes a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen. To remove the fear that people have got, it will take more time than we anticipate. So the businesses, whether it is tourism sector, transport sector, the transport sector is also one of the biggest hit. The train services and the road services, the taxi services, the buses, all these are being standstill in majority parts of the world. As we have noticed that Oman is also part of the OPEC countries, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. The petrol rate per barrel, it went up to $150 per barrel. It came down to $2 per barrel. That is a scary situation. So all the OPEC countries, such as Saudi Arabia, UAE, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Oman, and maybe Nigeria and Algeria, all those countries' economies are badly affected by this. There is no much demand for the petrol. There is not much demand for the natural gas. So this is impacting, probably it is having a spiraling effect. So one factor is impacting the other, and other is impacting more rapidly than the third one. So it is going like that. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, the businesses are being badly affected by this virus. So it will take maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years to put them back to the track. It's not going to be easy. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the kind of business. The business has been suffered a lot. The hotel industry suffered a lot. And if you look at the 5-star hotels across the globe, they used to have close to 90% occupancy rate. Now today they don't even have 30 to 40% occupancy rate. So how are they going to survive? How are they going to pay the salaries to the employees working? Thousands and thousands of employees are working for them. If these employees do not have the jobs, how are they going to survive? So these are the basic challenges that we are facing with this virus, ladies and gentlemen. People, those who have been saving throughout their lives, they've been taking those savings just to buy the basic commodities, just to meet the basic expenses, ladies and gentlemen. And how long they're going to survive? In the coming few weeks' time, if they deplete the savings, what is going to happen to the humanity? So this is the biggest challenge that we have been facing today. Now, I think these are the things, 3 things that I would like to unpack and I would like to share with you. That one side the virus, and the other side the economy, other side the business is trying to impact with each other and trying to create a big hole. The hole that we cannot even able to fill that hole. And we are trying to enter into the debt traps. So people, they begin to take the debt. Who is going to give the debts if people, they do not have the money? The debt, as explained by Professor Imran Salim, that the debt trap is being created. And we need to understand that globalization for the past 3 decades, globalization has been playing a vital role in the global business, in the global education, in the global health and global transportation, communication technologies, and so on and so forth. Now, we are not going to have the globalization. It is pushing us towards a de-globalization scenario. So I would like to mention here, there are 3 Ds. At 3 Ds, I always remember that. The first D is a desire. Having a mere desire, it doesn't make any sense. But the second D is a decision, which can make us something that If some student wanted to prepare for a IAS officer civil service exam in Indian scenario, he wants to, or everybody wants to become an IAS officer, IPS officer, IRS or IFS officer. That is a desire. It doesn't make any sense. But if they wanted to decide to prepare for that, that makes something for them. And then the third D is determination. If they determine to achieve something in their lifetime, they will definitely achieve. So this is 3D phenomena that I would like to share with you. But the other 3D phenomena on the other side of the coin, deglobalization. So we are trying to probably come out of the globalization scenario. We are trying to move towards the trajectory of the pathway of the deglobalization. Now everybody should able to produce their own goods and services. India, China, there is a rift going on. Now the pharmaceutical companies of India, they are depending upon certain raw materials from China. And India and China and America, they also have a rift in the global trade wars. So all these things are going to impact the global trade, global business, and it also creates some kind of imbalances to the humanity. So now how people begin to think, whatever we need, let us produce. In those days, probably a few hundred years ago, we used to practice the protectionism, where we don't want to any imports from other country, we don't want to export to other countries. So we just wanted to be self-reliant. We want to produce what we need. But now the deglobalization is taking place. That is point D1. D2 is the debt trap. It is like a vicious circle, ladies and gentlemen. We must remember the point that the countries who have been taking the debts for the past 50, 60 years down the line, they are not even paying interest rate today. When are they going to pay the principal amount? Country like China, trying to give the loans to countries like Sri Lanka and Zambia and maybe Uganda and a few other countries in Africa and maybe Angola, and they're trying to take over those countries' economy. They're trying to dominate. That's what is going to happen. So debt is more dangerous. Now that is the second D. And the third D is digitalization. Now, I never imagined myself that I heard Zoom in 2013 when Zoom is launched by the guy from China. He was a software engineer who was denied the visa 8 times to come to USA. And that guy, for a survival purpose, he started Zoom. Now Zoom is being used by millions of people across the globe. And I've been using for the past few months, I'm an illiterate in using these kind of softwares. I didn't use GoToMeeting, and I didn't use Microsoft Teams. I didn't use the probably Google Meet, and we have so many other platforms. So I have to learn, and I have to use this kind of technologies. And so that is the digitalization. Now these are the 3 Ds on the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen, that we have desire, decision, determination one side, and deglobalization, debt, and digitalization on the other side. I never know that when I was coming to India during December, January, last year, this year, I took part in about 25, 26 conferences, events across India. From Chennai to Bhopal, Bhopal to Jaipur, Jaipur to Delhi, Delhi to Bombay, and Bombay to many other cities, Nasik and probably Satara and so on and so forth. So, but when I go there, I was physically going there, and I can be there at one time, I can be there in one place. But today, thanks to this technology, while I was sitting here in South Africa, which is close to the Botswana's border, Botswana, Gaborone is about 130 kilometers where I sat now, and Botswana border is only 20 kilometers far from where I sat now, in the northwest province of South Africa. And I can be there in Indonesia, I can be there with you in Oman, I can be there with you in India, I can be there in many other countries in the world. So I learned that with this technology, I can be simultaneously in many countries in the world. So this is the part of digitalization. So ladies and gentlemen, without taking much time, I think I would like to wrap up my presentation and saying one more time, thanks to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Abub and Dr. Rashid Ibrahim Rashid, the Dean of the Faculty, and Dr. Shad. And thank you very much for inviting me for this wonderful webinar, international webinar. And I also must thank my fellow friends and colleagues and probably some of the students and probably different other scholars and experts from different corners of the globe. And thank you very much for taking part in this webinar. And I would be very happy to share some more insights through questions and clarifications. So with that note, thank you one and all, and you have a blessed good afternoon, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Doctor. You are indeed a living encyclopedia of economics. Means, my goodness, you remember all those statistics and data, and all those things were there on your fingertips. Thank you so much. It was such an enlightening session. Indeed, you have proven that not always PPT is needed to assert your point. So thank you so much. Now the house is open for questions. Before I open the house for the direct questions, we have two questions which have been posted. There are three questions posted in the chat box. I'll be reading those questions for you. The first question was asked by Mr. Irmal Bino, and he says that what is the role of goodwill and good governance in fighting against poverty?
What is the role of goodwill?
Goodwill and good governance in fighting against poverty.
Okay. Should I answer that question, Dr. Shah?
Yes, please, sir. We'll move
yes,
one by one.
Thank you, thank you for that wonderful question. Goodwill versus good governance. We need to know that how that impacts on the poverty. Being a good person, being a honest person, sometimes it is good, but it doesn't have an impact. And in order to create an impact, we need to have the good system and a good process. Now, for example, when you look at the governance system, in most of the developing countries, the governance system has been very much negatively affected by the corruption, by the scandals, by the thieves, by the robbers. And I always remember one thing that, ladies and gentlemen, that there is a concept of BRIC, BRICS. BRICS is an organization where Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are part of that group. But I wanted to redefine the BRICS here. B stands for bribery, R stands for robbery, I stands for incompetency, C stands for corruption, and S stands for scandals. So most of the developing countries in this world, they are having this kind of pandemic. This is another pandemic actually, which is killing a lot of people, which is creating a lot of poor people in this world. Now, when we look at the poverty rates in 1950s, when India became the republic on 26th of January, and after 73 years down the line, or 70 years down the line, we could still read the same kind of issues. Why it happened like that? Because the corrupt political leaders, they did not address the problem of poverty. So the poverty remains because the politicians need the poor people to vote them. Now, that is why deliberately they don't want to lift them out of the poverty. Now, China on the other side of the coin has lifted 700 million people out of poverty for the past 2.5, 3 decades. That's the biggest achievement for the humanity in this world. If we, with the goodwill, having the goodwill more than the goodwill, you should have the good governance. We do spend billions and billions of rupees or billions and billions of dollars across the globe, but unfortunately, for every $1 that is being spent, not even 30 cents are reaching the downtrodden. Remaining 70 cents are being taken over by the politicians and by the middlemen. And then how are we going to achieve by eliminating the poverty or reducing the poverty? So I think I try to address the question that the poverty and the good governance. The good governance, countries like Finland, Denmark, probably Sweden, and those countries, the Scandinavian countries, they try to balance with good governance. Now, countries like Singapore, Dr. Shad, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Actually, I had to mute them all so as to save time.
Okay. Right. Probably what I was trying to explain is that good governance can have a better place than having the goodwill. Goodwill alone cannot eliminate the poverty, but the good governance can. So that is in a nutshell for that particular question. That is my kind of explanation. But I'm trying to give you the background, what is happening in the developing countries for the past probably 6 or 7 decades. Thank you.
Probably, Professor, probably that is the reason yesterday we were listening to Professor Anna, and in gross national happiness also, good governance is one of the 4 pillars.
Correct.
So good governance is going to play a key role. Anyway, let's move to the next question before I give chance to people to ask the questions directly. Next question is from Dr. Vijay, and he says he's referring to the debt trap that you talked about, and he's saying that are there any threats to India with regards to possibility of falling into a debt trap?
Well, that's also a very good question. It is timely. In fact, we are facing a situation, although India is a more conservative kind of country, where we don't believe taking a lot of debts. But as an individual, we do have, in economics, there is a simple, probably a phrase that I always remember when I teach macroeconomics to my students, that individual saving is a virtue. And but at the same time, national saving is a calamity. So meaning that we people in India tend to save more. We think more about tomorrow or next year or in the coming 5 years or coming 10 years than thinking about today. So we save a lot. So when we save a lot, probably we will not be indulged into debt trap that easily. But now the scenario in other developing countries or developed countries also, if you look at the American debt to GDP, if you look at that, it's about 106%. As Professor Imran Salim was also mentioning a couple of days ago, that Japan, being the 3rd largest economy, the debt is probably 237%. But in India, it's not the case. Although the individuals are very much careful about the debt, that we are not going to take the debts to buy the house, to buy the motor vehicles, and to buy the furniture and the other stuff, we don't take debt, majority of them. It could be, but when it comes to the countries like South Africa or countries like America, many countries in Europe, everything that they buy, they have to take the debt. The house is not belongs to them. It is money borrowed from the banks, and the car that they have, expensive cars, they don't have it. They don't own it, because they buy with the debt. So I think in the current scenario, I must tell you the fact that although we are more conservatives and in our approach in taking the debt, but that is not enough, because we also need to rely upon the government. Government has been taking a lot of debts in order to run the current scenario. We've been spending unproductive expenditure, a lot of money that has been spent just to get the votes from the ordinary and poor people. the government is trying to play a lot of gimmicks. So who is going to pay for that? It is you and I. Now, our debt burdens are increasing. So in the coming few years, because of this pandemic issue, where we have 150 million people got unemployed, then the debt trap is going to play a major role even among the Indians as well. I think that would be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this. Now we have the next question. Next question is, which sectors, almost all the sectors are showing a downturn and they all are moving down. So what sectors do you think have a potentiality from the investors which will get up and they will be seeing a rising trend? Of course, we have seen that the IT sector is going to have a upward trend now, and there is almost a boom. But in addition to IT sector, what other sectors could be there where the investors can invest their money? Your take on
Well,
that?
that is a bit of complex and challenging question. My answer would be that the pandemic created winners as well as losers. So there are so many. Even Mukesh Ambani is considered to be one of the richest persons in the Asian continent. Now, if you look at his revenues for the past few months, it is drastically declined. He loses his rank also. Whereas the Zoom and these some of the Amazon, the guy Zebizo is the richest man in the world, and Amazon is still doing better with online shopping and so on and so forth. And so the tech companies such as Google or maybe IT related companies, maybe probably Apple, and so those companies are Microsoft and Infosys, those companies will come up. So it would be wiser for us to make the investments in such companies. But it is we must remember one thing, that it is like a V-shape scenario where we are declining like just like this, and at the same time we are going to go up like that. So it is a matter of time that it may take another 10 to 15 years for us to go just like that. So we are going to grow faster. But the global economy, for example, is tumbled down probably 5%, lesser than 5% it is contracted, according to IMF estimates. So my suggestion would be the investment areas where one can think of investing is the IT related companies, and also transportation, which is going to play a key role, though it is only a matter of time that we're going to go back to the transport services that we've been using. So I think that would be my answer. Thank you.
So that was the question of Ms. Fawzia Faridi. Now let's move to the question, and people are asking that considering the present scenario, what solutions do you propose for every country to have minimum benchmark in terms of in terms of the policies or procedures which each country can adopt? Of course, you talked about deglobalization, which many people refer as localization as well. So what can be the other solutions to these type of issues? Somebody's microphone is unmuted. Please mute yourself. Thank you.
Can you just try to rephrase the question, Dr. Shad? So you are saying that, please go ahead, rephrasing the question.
The question is that what are the solutions which every country can have as a minimum benchmark? Of course, people have been asking with reference to their own countries, but since we are organizing it at a global level, our objective is to have at least a minimum benchmark for each country. So what can be the minimum benchmark for each country that they can adopt it as a policy and procedure? You talked about deglobalization, which many countries refer as localization. But what addition to this can be a solution in context of the present scenario?
Well, yes, that is also probably a challenging question. That you see, countries' perspectives, countries' situations will vary from place to place. Within the country, also we have so many. There are certain areas that are booming, certain areas they are backward. Somebody's Dr.
Yes.
Shad.
Yes. Now, can you unmute yourself and speak?
Yes, Dr. Shad, can you hear me now?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Yeah, just to simplify my answer to the question that is being asked, that you see, economy is depending upon so many economic reforms, so many factors. It is not depending upon one or two or three factors alone. So deglobalization or localization, as you said, and in addition to that, we need to make fiscal reforms. We need to make the monetary reforms where we need to be stringent because people such as Greece end up taking a lot of debts, 171% debt they have taken. They reached a stage where they could not able to pay the salaries to the civil servants. And that is not a good thing. And we used to call about the pigs, the pig, PIGS. P stands for Portugal, I stands for probably, sorry, Italy, and G stands for Greece, and S stands for Spain. These pigs, they have a serious problem because of the discipline, the financial discipline. They were not disciplined monetarily and financially. They were not disciplined. So that created a lot of problem. A country like Germany, country like France. So therefore, my answer would be that we need to embark certain reforms that maybe monetary reforms where we need to stabilize the currencies, where we need to regulate the inflation rates. And for example, a country like Zimbabwe, a couple of days ago I was reading that Zimbabwean inflation rate is more than 785%. Now imagine the scenario where India or many other countries in the world, they do not able to see or do not able to withstand or resist the inflation rate between 3 to 10%. But 785% means it is going to have a lot of turmoils for the people, for the economy as well. So the economy of Zimbabwe is gone out of the track. Now it is difficult for us to, or for the government to bring it back. So my suggestion would be, we need to regulate and we need to monitor the situation. We need to see the developments closely so that we do not go out of the frame. And that is why the reforms that we need to adopt, the economic reforms, like we've been using liberalization, globalization, and privatization, that kind of reforms. So whether the reform, a particular reform is practical in one country, may not be practical in another country. So we need to look at the existing country scenario, then we need to adopt those models and gradually try to develop. I think that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Now, one question which is coming up again and again, Professor, that right now the entire world is facing economic slowdown. But why? This is a question coming from some of my Indian friends. They are saying that why, when America is also having this economic slowdown, when other countries are also having slowdown, why is still the Indian rupee is going down? It is becoming weaker day by day, and the dollar is prospering. So, if you can throw some light on this phenomenon, that why still the dollar is rising up, the currencies, other country currencies are going down. So, what is your take on it?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you. My answer would be after World War II, I think the war was clear. The countries like Germany, many countries in Europe, and then probably the global economy was suffered a lot after World War II. So to fix those kind of issues or destructions that are created by World War II, there was a meeting at the Bretton Woods, and at the Bretton Woods they decided to set up IMF, International Monetary Fund, and IBRD, the World Bank. So these are the two institutions. Now, the duty of the IBRD is to reconstruct the war-torn economies, particularly European economies. So when those things are being initiated, the Bretton Woods conference taken place in North Hampshire in USA. So since then, after World War II, the America became the global leader. And if you look at the finances of IMF and the World Bank, more than 40% of the finances contributed by America alone. Now, therefore, the dollar dominates. We used to have, a system probably gold and silver. We used to measure the currency values against the gold and against the silver, and that is mint parity theories. So the mint parity system has been abolished sometimes in 1970s. Now the dollar has been taken control over it. So that therefore, until today, the dollar has been managed or maintained as a global currency and global leader currency. So therefore, it still dominates.
Thank you so much for answering that question. It was very pertinent issue, and many people were asking this question. Now, the next question, several people have asked this question pertaining to the country, but I will generalize it in the interest of time. If you look into the oil producing nations, what happens to oil producing nations is that they export oil, and then for every commodity, they become an import based economy. They are importing foods, they are importing clothes, and you will find that since they are producing oil, so there is a heavy dependency on the oil sector, and then at the same time they become dependent on the imports. Now, when this is the scenario which is happening now, already the oil prices are crashing. Now, where these countries are going to stay, because if you look into the domestic industries of all the oil producing nations, they have more orientation towards producing oil and very less emphasis have been given to the other industries and sector. So how deglobalization is going to affect these economies? Because most of the thing which is coming to these countries is because by way of imports, and globalization has been a boon for them. So what will be your take on this? This I believe that this is going to be answer for many people who have asked this question here. Your take on this, sir.
Yes, Dr. Shad, and thanks for that question as well. Yes, in fact, the OPEC countries, particularly from Middle East, majority of them coming from Middle East. I do understand the scenario because Middle East countries, they are probably covered by the Saudi Arabian desert, and the climate-wise also they are not conducive to grow the agricultural crops as such. Although there are radical reforms that are being embarked, and there are so many, even the miracle garden of Dubai that speaks how beautiful the garden is all about. So though we have a lot of those countries, they try to, it's like a comparative advantage theory of David Ricardo in economics, that if they could able to import the meat and vegetables and all other food products from other countries and at a cheaper rate than they produce in their own countries. So that is the kind of scenario. And therefore, they are producing the oil, they are selling to the other countries. Saudi Arabia being the largest producer, now it's the second largest producer after Russia. That Saudi Arabia became one of the richest countries in the world because of the fact that it's only because of the oil. In 1960s and 70s, Saudi Arabia's situation was very bad. So I think the OPEC countries, they need to adopt. This is not going to be a permanent scenario. Everybody needs the oil, even to generate the power, for example. If you sit and work from home, you still need the power. To generate the power, I mean, you need the energy resources. Probably oil can be used there as well. So the demand for oil probably coming down in the global market is not a long-term scenario. It is not going to be permanent as such, but things will be changed. So the demand for oil will be still going to rise up, and therefore these OPEC countries, unless otherwise they depleted their oil resources, then that would be a big puzzle for them. But until such time, I think they're still able to, manage themselves with that kind of trajectory. I hope I answered that question, or is there any element that I didn't touch upon?
Very beautifully answered.
Thank you.
The chat box is full of questions actually, and since you took example of Greece and example of Italy, now the next question is coming all the way from Europe. One of the measures of controlling inflation has been the way we deal with the value of our own currency. Now, the problem with the European countries is majority of them have accepted euros as a common currency. So playing with the exchange rate is not an option for them. And that one of the cascading of it we have recently seen with the case of Greece. Somehow they were in a lot of debts and somehow they manipulated in European Union and they were able to take the membership. So this is where the question is coming, that do you see European countries leaving the concept of euros as their currencies and then adopting their old system of their own, having their own currencies to fight with this one? Or what is your suggestion? Should they stick to the euro-based economies, have a common currency to fight the post-COVID scenario, or should they move back to their own domestic currencies and deal with the economic situations? I hope this
that's
it.
yes, Dr. Shad, I think that's a great question as well. You see, we all know that euro currency started January 1st, 2002, about 18 and a half years ago. And with the European Union, probably they've been expanded to about 27, more than 27 countries within that European Union. Now, there are some countries, such as you mentioned just now, the Greece, and we do have Netherlands, we do have Denmark, and if you look at those, even Switzerland francs, I mean, those countries' currencies, they are much weaker sometimes than some of the developing countries' currencies as well. But I think because of the specific scenario that we've been facing with the global pandemic of COVID-19, and it would be ideal for them because at least they can try to stabilize with the euro than going back to their own currencies and digging their own graves. So probably there is one country, I think it's the Netherlands or somebody, they losing their currency value more than 50% or so in the recent times. Now, I don't advise for those European countries to go back to their old currencies, so that now look at the Zimbabwean scenario, for instance. As I explained to you, some case of Zimbabwe, in 2007, 2008, when the inflation of Zimbabwe was more than 17,000 percentage. Imagine 17,000 percentage is absolutely unbelievable, unimaginable. In no country in the world experiences that inflation. So meaning that they were paying 2 trillion Zimbabwean dollars to buy a packet of bread. 2 trillion Zimbabwean dollars to buy a liter of milk. I mean, you can imagine the scenario. So I think if they go out of this euro, and then if they begin to use their own currencies, probably they may not be worst case scenario like Zimbabwe, but they may experience something drastic like that. Thank you.
So much, Professor. Now, there are people who want to ask you questions directly. So I'm opening the floor now. Those of you who wanted to ask, I believe Professor Arshad is making a request.
Yes,
he says
yes.
that you were one of his former colleagues. So, Professor Arshad, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm very happy to introduce myself with the honorable resource person, Professor Ravinder Rena. Sir, we have been together in Asmara.
Yes, sir. I remember you very well, Professor Arshad. I'm pleased to see you after more than 10 years also. 10 years.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
thank you so much, and I'm very happy to see you doing so well. It was a very fantastic delivery from your side. My question is now, I must ask a question, that India is the largest, sixth largest economy in the world. But India also contributes the largest proportion of the poor people. It means there is no direct relationship of the incidence of poverty with that of the size of the economy. It has more to do with inequality. My question is, with the prevailing pandemic, do you think this pandemic is going to act as a leveler, or it is going to further aggravate this inequality in our society?
Professor Arshad, thank you very much for that question. That is a very important question, in fact, for the country, major economy, or second largely populated country like India. Well, if we realistically look at, although there would be some kind of estimates that have been made by different economists, but we went back in terms of our economy, we went back about 15 years. So imagine the scenario. 15 years when we went back, that means we are talking about 2020 now, and we are talking about 2005. And the meaning that this pandemic is already created lots of imbalances. As I mentioned to you that more than 100 million migrant workers, migrant laborers, their lives are drastically affected by this. Now, in order for them to get a job and get a bit of livelihood, and it will take some time. It is not immediate. It is not tomorrow or after tomorrow or next month or next year. No, it will take some time. So therefore, this pandemic is going to definitely create some economic imbalances, economic inequalities. So meaning that the poor will become more poorer as well. And I was also reading a report that more than 300,000 children, their lives are in danger because of malnutrition, because of no food. So this is going to add a fuel to the fire. So Ashadji, I think we're going to have a tough time. Richest economy doesn't mean that everybody is rich enough or everybody is enjoying their life. No. Even in America, though it is the largest economy, we do have so many poor people in America. We do have so many people, they do not even get about $10 or $20 per day as their income. So they are having a destitute life than even some of the Indians, in fact. So having this kind of scenario, it would be very difficult for us, and the rich and poor difference will be widened further. That would be my answer.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
I'm not able to find out whose microphone is there. Please mute yourself. Anyway, let me do this. Professor, again, I'll request you to unmute yourself. Sorry for this kind of thing, because in this GoToMeeting, the problem is that we have to find out who is speaking and then we have to unmute him. So I believe it's already time. Do we have Professor Gabriel here? Gabriel Stein? If we have Professor Gabriel here, and if we can have his experience on record here. Okay, Professor Gabriel, it seems he has left. Any other question? Anyone? Okay, Professor is there. Professor Gabriel, welcome to the session.
Hello?
Yes, Professor, we can hear you.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, no question. It's very interesting, though.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor. So it's already time, Professor. So thank you so much to all the active listeners today. And without any further ado, I'll request Dr. Ibrahim Rashid Al-Shamsi, the Dean College of Business, to propose a vote of thanks. Dr. Ibrahim, over to you.
Yes, Doctor, with you.
Yes, Doctor.
Yes.
Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Thank you very much to Dr. Professor Ravinder for the presentation. So on behalf of the University of Reni and the College of Business and all participants, I would like to thank you for your time. Yeah, your presentation was so nice, and I'm finding it difficult to getting the right words to express my gratitude to you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the wonderful presentation and information you made at this gathering. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much, Dr. With this, we have come to an end of this session. To all the participants, please note that if you have not marked your attendance, you can mark it from the link in the chat box. And I'll be putting the link in the WhatsApp group. So you all can mark your attendance there also. The link will be open till 1 hour from the session now. So wish you all the best. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay happy, and stay prosperous from now onwards. So thank you all of you, and see you tomorrow, same time, same place. See you. Have a great time ahead. Thank you so much.